Allen Iverson has started to make more headlines. It's not 1996 when he came into the league, though. Ben Mankiewicz, welcome to TYT Sports. Ben and Jason here with you. So AI, there's a lot of news going around with AI. A documentary on Showtime came out, similar, I guess, to Kobe Bryant's Muse. It's AI's Muse. A great article in the Huffington Post and a video in the Players Tribune. We're going to get to some elements first, and then we'll discuss AI's kind of, I don't want to say change of heart, but at least his coming around to understanding, I guess, the media's role, and of course, probably a lot of its maturity, because he was 21, 22 years old when he started breaking ankles with the dirtiest crossover I think I've ever seen in my life. So doing this for so long, I realized that the media, you have a boss, and your boss wants you to provide the best material that you can. And he might put pressure on you to do it in a way that you feel is unconstitutional. You might not like it, but you still got to feed your family. You got to do what you got to do. And I had to figure that out, and I used to. I couldn't stand the media, but I realized they have a job. They got to do what they have to do. He later goes on to say, in the second part of this quote, "I wish the media and the people that work in the media would realize sometimes, and I know it doesn't pay your bills, but sometimes just sit back and think like, man, what if this was my child and somebody was doing this to them and they had to just go through it? If somebody bashed them like this," he said, "just because their boss told them to do it, what if this happened to my daughter or my son or my mother or my father?" Iverson also appeared in the Players Tribune, where he kind of goes on to talk about stereotypes and being judged at a younger age. Let's take a look at that video.
Everybody's not going to love Allen Iverson. I always was basically judged from day one. You know, the tattoos, I basically got one and then got addicted to it, and just kept getting more. All of my tattoos that I have mean something. You know, because I have my kid's name on my body and my mom's name on my body. It's a bad thing. Like, it's just a stereotype, like I said. And then with my hair and the cornrows, you know, people talked about it being a thug thing. You know, I was tired, basically, of barbers messing up my hair on the road. And I was like, okay, well, if I grow my hair and get cornrows, then I don't have to deal with that anymore. But I had to learn the hard way that you're not going to satisfy everybody. You don't have to know what type of father I am, what type of son I am, what type of brother, what type of friend, what type of family man. You don't have to know that, as long as the people that I care about and that love me, as long as they know, that's the only thing that matters. Hardworking, dedicated, loyal, faith, belief, a man, winner, defiant, tough, resilient, warrior, and a survivor. Everybody's not going to love Allen Iverson.
All right, so Allen Iverson, it's not a different side of him. It just seems like a more mature side of Allen Iverson.
He's 40.
He is 40, and he can still probably work that beautiful crossover. One of the things, so growing up watching the NBA, Allen Iverson took over my life. He was the most exciting player in the NBA. And amongst, of course, you had Jordan in his prime, winning championships, but this little 6-foot guy comes in the league and starts crossing over Michael Jordan and hitting shots over Kobe Bryant, or what would become Kobe Bryant, and stepping over Tyronn Lue. And every night it was a highlight reel, and he did it essentially by himself, which it's funny because you talk about Kyrie Irving having 0 assists in a game. Allen Iverson pretty much had that same mantra in basketball, where he wasn't looking to pass the ball, he was looking to attack the rim and score, yet he was able to make it to the finals.
Iverson, you know, you forget that this is a guy that led the league in steals, I think, you know, at least 3 times, and was always right up there. You know, and turned the ball over a fair amount too, but the steals, you got to factor that in, they make up for it. You know, I'm looking at his career stats here. Oh, by the way, he led the league in steals 3 times, I'm seeing here. But, you know, 2.2 steals for his career, and an incredible run there in his first 10 years. Really almost straight through for his first 15 years, where he's getting basically at least 2 steals a game.
When did he leave Philly?
6.2 assists a game for his career. And those early years in Philly, when he was getting 30 a game, you know, those assist numbers a little lower, 4.6, 4.7, 4.65. And then later on, into Philly and into Denver, you know, then the assists come up to about 7 a game as the scoring average dips a little bit, but doesn't even dip that much. You know, I think both things about Iverson are true. I mean, it wasn't completely outrageous for people to dislike him. I mean, his he said there, one of the things he says in that is, one of the words he uses to define himself is defiant. That's admirable, but that's also obviously sometimes going to rub people the wrong way. He's right that we are stereotyping things about him, that we are stereotyping things that we attribute to what many people attribute to scary young black men, the way that many people instantly bristle at that. And he's right, that's just an old-fashioned stereotype that the people who believe that and experience need to look at. I'm not calling those people racist in and of that, but they got to look at that, right? But that said, this is a guy who also got into a serious fight as a
high school
in high school that where people were injured, where there are investigators there who say that he played a critical role in instigating that fight. So, it didn't all happen by accident, and what rings true is, look, I got tattoos and they mean something to me. And he goes, look, I kind of got addicted to it. I was into it. Like, whatever, you want to have tattoos. Now, of course, we see it all the time. We don't even judge tattoos the same way that we did then. But he was a little early in that, right? So, but then he gives this nonsense answer about his hair. It doesn't matter. Just, what I want is more of the defiance, no the explanation. Like, who cares how I wear my hair? What business is it of yours what choice I make with my hair? I thought cornrows looked good, so I got cornrows, and F you.
Well, his whole reasoning behind that was it all played into the stereotypical thug mentality that he would get criticized for regularly.
Yes, he would, and of course, he was a professional basketball player. He's not a thug, but I think my impression of him, and I'll be interested to watch the Showtime documentary. Mm-hmm. And it's worth watching that whole piece on the what's it called, the Players Tribune. The Players Tribune. They're all relevant. It's all they're all worth seeing. I think some of what made AI marketable as he was that he embraced some of those stereotypes. They worked for him, and it worked also for a guy who was 6 feet, 165 in a big man's league, playing with this fire and determination. Yeah, I didn't really like AI either, because mostly, if you break it down, I didn't think he made people better. I didn't think he made his teams better. I thought he shot the ball too much.
He was never a pure point guard, but he was a transcendent guard in the NBA, because now we see more players like Allen Iverson in today's game than we do.
Not his height.
No, not his height, but the style of game that he plays, where they're Kyrie Irving, I'm going to go back to that comparison, because Allen Iverson, at least stat comp-wise, are probably not far off, especially before LeBron James was there, and it was just Kyrie's team. But the interesting thing about Allen Iverson is that he still can captivate. Press would ask tougher questions to Allen Iverson because he was that team, that 76ers team, for better half of a decade, and he carried that team. And I guess my question for you is, do you think that Allen Iverson cracked under the pressure of the media when he was younger?
He didn't handle it well, but he didn't learn from somebody who told kids how to handle the media. I love John Thompson Sr. I like him a lot. I admire him. I had the misfortune of having to cover him for a year and a half, which was not easy. And those kids, they shield from the media, and I think clearly Thompson, who oddly enough is now in the media, John Thompson Sr., and I love him and I love his son, and I think they do a terrific job. His son is just a perfect steward for that Georgetown basketball program that I root pretty hard for now. But John Thompson Sr. got those kids coming out of college distrusting the media. So, and so I would say that to some extent he may bear some of the burden for why AI's relationship was that. He says really why it was that, why he clashed that much with the media. Is he right about, hey, would you want people talking about you like this? Do sports journalists feel a much greater freedom to be personal? Entertainment journalists in general, and sports being part of that? Yeah, they do. But that said, Iverson could have handled it better. There's no question that he could have handled it better, and I think he probably could have been a little better trained for it.
I think the one thing that we always forget with these stories, he's 20 years old, all these guys. Andrew Wiggins is 18 years old. J.R. Smith, when he came in the league, was 19 years old. I think you make a good point on the terms of who their coach was in college, and some of these kids that used to come out of high school.
But let me just...
Michael Kidd-Gilchrist is another great example of somebody who, St. Anthony's Prep, and came out of which was a fantastic book, by the way, if you're looking to read anything interesting. Miracle on St. Anthony's. Adrian Wojnarowski wrote this about his program and how he would take kids from the streets that were not raised with the same values that other more fortunate kids were given when they were younger.
In the mainstream sports media, you know, again, there are a ton of really good writers in there, really good writers. But there are some who, just like in covering politics now, are sort of just chasing they love the horse race nature of it. They love the antagonizing soundbite. They think more important is the clash with the coach rather than what happened in the game.
Yeah,
and if there is a clash with the coach, they want to talk about that clash as if it means something significant and not two competitive people saying, hey, I want you to run this play, and the other guy's, no, I'm not going to run that goddamn play. We're 4 seconds away, I'm going to run this play. And then afterwards, they don't need to be enemies. They're like, hey, good call, we won, nice job. Like nobody, you know, this happens. This happens in competitive when things get competitive. Iverson cultivated that image that he seemed to want to cultivate it. But he's a grown-up now. He's 40, he's got a family, he's got kids. And as always, I don't know what kind of, he's right. I don't know what kind of father is, what kind of friend he is. My hunch is, since we've never really heard anything to the contrary, he's probably pretty great, right? You know, for all the things that, and the eagerness that people would have had to portray him negatively, they never really got anything. Teammates didn't hate him. You know, this is a pretty well-liked guy. And that 6 foot, 165 grit and determination to be special is the very thing in sports that I think we all admire and love. So I look at Allen Iverson, I do now differently, and I sort of wish that I'd been on Team Iverson back then, but I didn't read into it enough. But if he'd been on my team, don't get me wrong, if I'd been a Sixer fan and not a Bullet fan,
you would have loved him.
I would have loved Allen.
Of course, because he was a winner. If you subscribe to TYT Sports, we will give Ben cornrows. Thank you for watching.